Follow the Path. The Bears Grove is adult-level discussion of role-playing as a storytelling art at samchuppmedia.com.
Hello and welcome to another Bears Grove podcast. It's a World Building Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out with me. I am so excited today. We're on part 2 of the world building aspect of creating cities. What we reviewed last time was the kind of how to choose where to put your city, the kind of elements that make up a city, and we started on the growth of a city, okay, and how to go back in time to the beginning of the city to be able to sort of record the strata of history that causes your city to be the way it is. Okay, and I told a story about a village that was on a river, had a ferry. The ferry was popular. It became a bridge. The bridge was popular. Trade starts to flow through that area, and then it becomes a town. We had a nomad group come in, and although they were distrusted, they were eventually welcome to stay, as long as they stayed in their own district, which is, that's discriminatory. But this kind of injustice happened in our history, and so it might be good to not sweep that kind of thing under the rug, right? It depends on what you want to do with your game. Like if you want to have everybody 100% of the time always happy and harmonious, that's fine, and I don't have a problem with that. But in this situation, what I'm proposing is you have this nomad society who comes in, and because some of the nomads are young and they don't want to go back on the road, they want to stay. And so they build families there, and they intermix with other people who were there. Okay? Then some dwarves nearby in the mountains got attacked by a dragon. Okay, I'm totally stealing this from The Hobbit. No big deal. But they got attacked by a dragon. The dragon destroyed their homes and drove them out. The dwarves all came to this town, and they were like, look, we need a place that has water. We need to be able to work our trade. Eventually we want to go back to the town, to the mountain, and take back our place. But right now we need refuge. And so the town fathers and mothers will be saying, okay, let's let these dwarves in because the dwarves have gold. Okay? I mean, it's terrible, but it's very realistic. These gold-bearing dwarves can buy their way in where the nomads did not have that lever to pull. So the dwarves are there. They create a culture of smithcraft. Okay? And after a while, the smiths that were there start to intermingle with the dwarves, and maybe they create a smith's guild. Okay? In our world, guilds rose up during the Renaissance and became a power by sort of regulating who gets to know what, right? So, it may be that the dwarves in this area were like, okay, we'll share some secrets with you humans on how to do things, but we want those secrets to be carefully controlled, and we're not going to give away the store. So you have to serve as apprentices and journeymen, and then become a master in your own right in order to learn the secrets that we have to teach. And so that's what builds that concept of this city has a smithcraft, bent to it, right? So the smiths, they like to diversify. So you're going to have weapons and armor smiths. You're going to have jewelry smiths. You're going to have people who create building materials. There's going to be a lot of different kinds of smiths. And once you have one successful craft in an area like this, you're going to get others to come in, because they need wood crafts, they need glass, they're going to need like all kinds of different chemicals for their trade, because these dwarves know all about alchemy and how to use the alchemical elements to do alloys that were special and magical. And so you have like other crafters coming to that city to live, and then one day a knight, an elven knight on horseback, shows up and says, by the way, y'all, in his own words, by the way, y'all, this town is in the kingdom of Sunleaf. And, the king of Sunleaf is saying, everything is cool right now, but you're going to eventually have to pay some taxes. Now, the city fathers and mothers are going to have a problem there, because they're going to say, well, what do we do? There's this elven civilization that basically wants to take us over. And they can choose to do a number of different things. And this is where stories come up, right? So let's say they capitulate immediately, and the Elven Kingdom does the equivalent of what the Roman Empire used to do. They just come in and say, look, you're now part of our kingdom. We're not asking you to do anything different or special. Give us money every so often, and that's it. You're going to put our flag up here, and you can keep your gods, you can keep your practices. This guild is cute, whatever you want, you can keep it. We just want you to know that you're part of us. Oh, and by the way, we're going to put an envoy here. And that envoy may become a governor. And that governor may become, maybe bringing a garrison of elves to live there. And now you have another culture that's sitting in that city. And by now, it is definitely a city. It's no longer a town, y'all. Because you have a fortress that they build, the elves build, because they see that place as strategically important as well as trade. They want someone there to defend the river, so that if anybody comes up that river to go attack the kingdoms, the whole kingdom, then they're going to have somebody there to defend that river. Okay. So now you have the nomads. Or you have the regular humans that were there all along. You have the nomads, you have the dwarves, and you have the elves who come in and say, we're in charge. Okay? That's, 4 different cultures. And so we can go back and take it back a step and say, okay, what if the city fathers and mothers decide they're not going to want to join the Elven Kingdom, and that they're going to actually hire a mercenary company to come in and defend them because they want to be a free city. And let's say these mercenaries they come from a completely different place in the world. Maybe they come from an island, Maybe they come from the desert. Maybe they come from a forest nation. But these mercenaries show up and, they like the place. And they like being paid. So, maybe they're accepted too. Or maybe they are going to be a thorn in the side of the city for the rest of its life. It's hard to say. But if they throw down that gauntlet, the city is going to have to defend itself when the king elf shows up and says, hey, by the way, I wasn't kidding when I said you were part of my empire, And if I have to blow you up to prove that, I will. Okay? If I have to invade you, besiege you, take apart your city brick by brick, I will. I don't want to. That would be a shame. But if I have to, I will. But let's say they do win their freedom. Then it becomes known as the free city of blank. The city-state of blank. Alright? They fought their freedom. They got their freedom from the elves. And maybe part of the peace agreement that was made is the elves said, okay, fine, you can, as long as we can keep some people here, you can be a free city. They just didn't really have the time, effort, or energy to do a big old siege, and the city was not that important. It was a human city, big deal. Got other things going on back home. Can't deal with that. So that's another branch things could take. And then of course there's the whole, the elves come, they besiege the city, they take it over, they put the city fathers and mothers to the sword, and now you have an elf dominant culture with the original humans kind of shunted to the side. And now the humans are starting to feel like those nomads did back in the day. And maybe the nomads and humans have interrelated enough now that their cultures are very close together. And, there's this sense of we have to rebel. We have to strike back at our elven oppressors. Okay? The dwarves are maybe neutral in all this because they don't want to get involved, but clearly if there's weapons and technology in the city, they're going to be used for the good of whoever has them in their hands. And the elves will be looking at the dwarven guild, the Smith Guild, and saying, we're not entirely sure we want you to have all this power politically and socially. We want to know your secrets, and we're going to come in and take them. Well, I'll tell you right now, that's not going to fit. That's not going to sit well with the dwarves. They're gonna basically, they're dwarves. These dwarves, will say, are so selfish that they would destroy their lore rather than let other people take it from them. Okay. So you have, this is like history in the city, and depending on how it goes, you track these layers of culture and involvement. Okay. And at some point, there's probably going to be a renaissance, or some kind of enlightenment, or some kind of, thing that happens. Like, for example, maybe the High King Elf dies, doesn't leave an heir. Now, this elven city, this city that was taken over by the elves, is not that important. And it could be that the original, this nomad and human, the nomad humans and the village humans who've been interbreeding all this time are now known as the outsiders. and the outsiders are like really wanting to get rid of the elves, and the elves are looking at the city and going, there's just too much trouble here, we're gonna leave it. Maybe some elves stay, maybe not, okay? But the elves go back to their, by and large, they leave. But they leave behind some elven culture. They leave behind some elven money. They leave behind elven art, elven customs, maybe even an elven religion. And at that point, maybe there's even like a wizard's college or a wizard's tower or something that starts. So you can start working on the arcane part of your city. And then there is maybe an election of a grand mayor. And suddenly, the outsiders are now insiders. Okay? They take over. They assert themselves as a free city again. They raise a standing army. They patrol the river to keep people from going upriver without, paying them. Maybe they even divert the river and make a lake nearby. This is a culture of people who've been trained by dwarves, trained by elves, empowered by the strength and courage of a nomad culture, and they basically are go-getters now. They've been oppressed. They know what that is. They don't want to be oppressed anymore, and so they're going to take action to protect themselves, right?